What is up, nerds? It is Reptile DIY here again, and today I'm going to be showing y'all how to turn trash into band patches. More specifically, how to take one of the most thrown away substances on planet Earth and make band patches out of it. Of course, I'm talking about rubber. But enough talking, let's get this shit started. So rubber is rubber. Of course, we use it in our cars, our trucks, our bicycles, and our motorcycles. Specifically, we're going to be talking about rubber inner tubes. You find them in motorcycles and bicycles. And I'm going to show you how to turn this rubber into band patches. As you can see, I have some rubber on one of my old pair of crust pants. It's a very durable material. It's hard to sew, but it does last forever. Rubber is an underrated material when it comes to upcycling and making your own DIY clothes. So let's talk about supplies. Of course, you are going to need rubber. And the specific kind of rubber that I'm talking about is inner tube rubber. You find this with bicycle inner tubes and motorcycle inner tubes. Now guys, if you don't ride bikes or motorcycles, maybe you know somebody who does, ask them if they have any old inner tubes lying around. Another good option would be to go down to a bicycle repair shop or a motorcycle repair shop and ask them, hey, do you have any old inner tubes lying around? And they'll probably give you the inner tubes. These are probably going to be your best methods for sourcing your rubber inner tubes. So the main difference between bicycle inner tube and motorcycle inner tube is the actual sizes of the inner tube. Bicycle inner tubes are a lot smaller and they work great for just doing a logo that is just like the word or the name of the band. Whereas motorcycle inner tube is a lot bigger and you could probably do some artwork and the logo of the band. Personally, I prefer using motorcycle inner tube because you get a lot more material as opposed to just bicycle inner tube, which allows you to make larger patches. Other supplies that you are going to need is rubbing alcohol. You're going to need paint pens. I use black and white. I like to use black paint pens to clean up any mistakes and add more details. You're also going to need a clear coat or sealer that is compatible with rubber. That part is important. It has to be compatible with rubber. A computer and printer might also come in handy. Speaking of printing, you want to get this A4 printer label paper. You want to get the printer label paper that has no relief cuts in it. It's just going to be one solid sheet, and it's essentially like 2-ply, like one side sticky. After you print off your stencil, you cut out your stencil, and then you stick it onto your material. I will put a link down below for this paper. You are also going to need scissors and an X-Acto blade. And when it comes to sewing these patches on, you will need a pair of needle nose pliers because this material is very hard to sew on. Now when it comes to band logos, you could just do an image search online to find your band logo. I do want to do a shout out for this page called ANARCHOSTENCILISM. The link will be down below, but essentially it's hundreds, if not thousands, of already made band stencils ready to go. It has to be one of the best resources for making band patches, finding stencils, just whatever you need. Check them out. So next up, we are going to prep our inner tube. Now, I did not record this. Essentially, you're going to cut open the inner tube so you have one big flat surface. As you can see, I am using motorcycle inner tube and not bicycle inner tube. Like I said, motorcycle inner tube gives you a larger surface area of rubber. Then you're going to take some rubbing alcohol and clean it up real good, get all the dirt and junk and oils off of the surface of rubber that we're going to be painting. Alright, so I'm going to show y'all 3 different methods for making these rubber patches. This first method is my favorite, but it does require a little bit of artistic ability. So essentially, we're going to take our rubber, find a long strip, and then we're going to cut that strip out. This is kind of what you'd be doing if you were using bicycle inner tube. We're going to get this long, skinny strip to make a band logo. Now once you get your strip, you'll notice one side of the rubber is flat and the other side has grooves and lines. You always want to draw your logo on the side that's completely flat, as you can see right there. Then you grab a pencil and essentially freehand your band logo. Make sure to use reference photos that you can find online. Maybe you have some vinyl. But essentially you just draw on, you freehand the logo itself. The cool thing about drawing on the rubber with a pencil is that if you make any mistakes, you just wipe it off and redraw it. Super easy. And once your logo is drawn on perfectly with a pencil, you go back with your paint marker and you do the outline. And once your outline is done, you're going to go back with another paint marker and you're going to fill in the inside of your logo. You're going to do that one time, let it dry completely all the way over, and then you're going to go back and go over again to do a second layer. Alright, here we go. Here's our first layer. We're going to go back, like I said, and do a second layer. You could also do a third layer if you want. But as you can see, I only did 2 layers on this logo. Next up, you're gonna grab your black paint pen and you're gonna clean up any of the mistakes. You can even just outline it to make the logo sharper and just clean up any mistakes. This is where you really make that image pop. Also, if your logo has any details, this is when you're going to add the details in black. But here we are, guys. We are all done with this first method. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. Let's go on to the next method. So I'm gonna go back to my rubber, get something square, set on top of the rubber, make a template, because I want that to be the size of my patch. Now this second method is when you would use a computer and a printer and that label printer paper I was talking about earlier and just print off your logo. Then you'd cut it out, stick it onto your rubber, and do it that way. Guys, I do not have any of the printer label paper, so I'm just gonna make my own with some extra wide tape, and I'm gonna stick it onto some freezer paper, put it on my computer screen, and just trace out the stencil that I wanna make. Essentially, I'm just making my own sticky stencil, and I'll be honest, the method I'm showing you is pretty janky, but it does work. But like I said before, if you have that printer label paper, absolutely just print off your stencil and just cut it out with an X-Acto blade. But here I am, being cheap and janky, sticking my DIY sticky paper stencil to my computer screen and hand tracing it out with a pencil. Pretty easy, self-explanatory, as you can see. Next up, you're going to take a piece of cardboard and your X-Acto blade and cut out your stencil. Be extra careful cutting this stencil out. You want to save any inserts that you may or may not need. That entirely depends on what kind of stencil you are cutting out. But here we go. We got our sticky stencil. Got everything cut out. We're going to take off the backing of the stencil. Nice and slow. Be careful not to ruin it. And then you're going to set the sticky part onto the top of your rubber. And just like in the first method, you want to make sure you're putting it on the flat side of the rubber and not the side of the rubber with all the grooves and lines. But here we go, we got it on. Now guys, you really want the stencil to be on there, secured and tight. I did not put mine on tight enough, and my paint kind of bled underneath the logo. You do not want that, but if it happens, it happens. You could always fix it, as I'll show you. But anyway, next up, we're gonna take a paint pen and do a layer of white all over the top. Then it is important to let it completely dry and do a second layer. Like I said before, you could also do a third layer, but anyway, here we are taking off our paper stencil. And when I did this, I was kind of upset because there was a lot of bleeding. Like I said, it's important to really make sure that stencil is on there tight. But honestly, it's nothing that you can't fix. I just went back with a black and white paint pen and just added more details, filled out the lines, put black over all the bleeding marks, and at that point I just added all the details. I even went back and filled out the stencil lines so it looked like a solid image instead of a stencil, if that makes any sense. But as you can see, all the details are added. I'm cleaning it up a lot nicer. There we go. As you can see, we have both of our patches made now. Like I said, I prefer the freehand method, but the stencil method does work. And like I mentioned earlier, if you do have a printer and printer label paper, absolutely utilize it. Now this third method, I can't physically show you guys because it involves having a screen printer, and I do not have any screen printing materials, and I wasn't going to track one down for the tutorial. But essentially you would use your print screen like you normally would, but instead of using canvas, our t-shirt material, you would just substitute the material with rubber. And honestly, I don't see any reason why you could not be able to screen print patches onto rubber material instead of the traditional canvas. So here we are, this is the last step. It's very important. You want to get some sort of clear coat that's sprayable and that works on rubber. That's very important that it works on rubber, and you're just going to do a couple layers to seal up your patches, which will keep the artwork on your patches longer. Now the final step is to attach your patches to either your pants or a vest or a jacket. I would recommend sewing them on, and I would use some heavy nylon thread and a pair of needle nose pliers. Go very slow because it's very hard to sew through this rubber. It takes time, but it is well worth the effort. Alternatively, if you're putting these on a jacket or a vest, you could even rivet these on with leather rivets and attach them that way. I haven't seen it done, but it is an option. So that is it, guys. These rubber patches are super easy to make. They're pretty cheap, if not free if you already have all the materials, and they are extremely durable. Here is a picture of a pair of pants with rubber patches that I made back in 2014. I don't have these anymore, but I thought I'd include a picture. All of the yellow artwork is rubber patches that I made. And like I showed you guys at the beginning of the video, you can even just sew blank rubber strips onto your patch pants just to add different textures and layers. I personally like that. But if you've liked what you've seen, definitely hit that button down below. I've been doing this DIY shit for about 2 decades, and I'd love to show you guys a thing or two. So check out my other tutorials. I have quite a few on crust pants and crust pants accessories, because that's what all you kids love to watch. So until next time, see you later, nerds. Hey, thank you guys for making it to the very end of the video. This is where I showcase some of my favorite distros, zines, and creators within the scene. Today, I'm shouting out an Instagram page called Crusters_DIYs. This page is a fantastic resource where people can upload their DIY projects. Mainly, it consists of a lot of crust pants and vests, but I really enjoy looking at everybody's hard work and dedication when it comes to making their own gear. So definitely give Crusters_DIY a follow.